Revolutions are not merely declared at grand podiums. They are challenged in the dead of night by silent saboteurs. $12 million in crisp sequential $100 notes, 25 kilograms of pure unrefined gold thwacking against the floorboards. 42 military-grade encrypted satellite communicators hidden in the back seat of an unmarked SUV. This is not a fictional thriller script designed for a cinematic release. This is the raw, unvarnished anatomy of a silent war currently being waged against the awakening of an entire continent. The map of modern West Africa is being redrawn, but every line of independence is bought with the constant threat of betrayal. A nation of 22 million souls working the dry soil of Burkina Faso, striving for economic survival, finds its future hung in the balance while hidden external architects plot to trade their hard-won freedom for a suitcase of foreign currency. Then came a Tuesday night on a dark stretch of highway outside Ouagadougou, a routine traffic stop. A single flashlight beam hitting a speeding windshield, and a multi-million-dollar conspiracy shattered by the unyielding gaze of ordinary soldiers. How does an old empire react when a young soldier refuses to bend the knee? What happens when the traps laid in the shadows are dragged into the blinding African sun? Do not look away. What comes next may change how we read the map forever. If you believe in these stories of justice and resilience, show your support by liking this video, leaving your thoughts below, and subscribing to continue this journey together. It means more than numbers. It keeps the flame of dignity burning. Let us step onto that dust road. The air in the Sahel is heavy, thick with the scent of dry earth and impending change. The security forces standing guard at the periphery of the capital were men and women with calloused hands and steady hearts. Ever since the region began asserting its absolute sovereignty, declaring an ideological exit from centuries of colonial influence, these checkpoints have become the thin line between stability and absolute chaos. Dozens of commercial trucks and local passenger vans pass through every hour under the blazing heat. It is a grinding, exhausting routine, until the rhythm breaks. An unmarked vehicle approached the barrier, moving at a speed that screamed panic. Its windows were tinted an unnatural, absolute black. The officers raised their hands, signaling a halt. The air grew perfectly still. When the heavy doors opened, the soldiers did not encounter local merchants or traveling families. They found foreign operatives holding passports from completely different corners of the globe. In the back seat lay heavy reinforced military-grade duffel bags. When the calloused hands of those young border guards unzipped the reinforced lining, they did not discover travel gear or clothing. They found stacks upon stacks of foreign cash, $12 million meant to grease the wheels of corruption. Next to the money lay 25 kilograms of unrefined gold bars. This was the literal stolen blood of the African soil extracted from native mines, now weaponized to buy the destruction of the nation. But the cargo grew darker. Tucked beneath the floorboards were 42 military-grade satellite communicators, advanced units designed to bypass local networks and ping encrypted foreign servers across the ocean. This was a full-scale sabotage kit built for a specialized hit squad. Investigators quickly realized this was not a standard smuggling operation. This was a precision-engineered blueprint for a catastrophic event. Who financed this $12 million war chest? And what exactly did the forensic analysts find when they forced open the encrypted memory drives of those 42 satellite devices? The contents of those mysterious, unlabeled wooden crates found alongside the fortune in cash and gold held an even more sinister revelation. This was not a routine shipment of black market contraband designed for profit. When military medical specialists pried open the seals, they discovered rows of advanced battlefield trauma kits, military-grade hemostatic agents, and specialized surgical serums. This was the highly specific logistical footprint of a kinetic hit squad. These supplies were engineered to sustain an elite armed force through a prolonged, high-casualty offensive in an urban environment. This was the vanguard of an engineered catastrophe, a silent deployment intended to pave the way for a sudden, violent Burkina Faso coup. Every vial of medicine and every tourniquet proved that the architects of this plot were not planning a peaceful transition. They were preparing to drown the aspirations of a nation in blood. Yet the ultimate failure of this conspiracy lies within a profound, unbridgeable cultural divide. The external forces behind this operation viewed the Sahel through an archaic lens of transactional corruption. They arrived with $12 million in untraceable cash and 25 kilograms of raw gold, operating under the absolute conviction that every man has a price and every nation can be purchased. They believed that financial hardship makes a people pliant. But their spreadsheets and economic models could never account for the magnificent defiance of the human spirit. Look closely at the extraordinary contrast that defined that fateful night. While a fortune in foreign wealth moved through the darkness to buy compliance, the target of their malice sat in a modest office illuminated by the glow of a single desk lamp. Captain Ibrahim Traore had already shattered the traditional rules of political greed. Upon taking the helm of his nation, the young leader did what the old guard considered unthinkable. He explicitly rejected the opulent presidential salary, choosing instead to survive solely on his basic army captain's pay. He did not sleep on imported silk or surround himself with gold-plated luxury. He rested on a basic canvas military cot, wore shorn combat fatigues, and kept his eyes fixed entirely on the preservation of the red earth beneath his feet. Consider the power of this moment. They brought gold to shackle. He chose service to free. They believed everything has a price. They forgot that dignity is non-negotiable. This is the spiritual core of the modern African awakening. It is a reality that turns the calculus of the Sahel proxy war completely on its head. For decades, global superpowers treated this continent as a passive chessboard, assuming that a combination of financial starvation and covert pressure would always guarantee submission. They could not comprehend a leader or a people who view sovereignty not as a commodity to be traded, but as an ancestral inheritance to be defended at all costs. The foreign operatives captured at the dusty highway checkpoint were stripped of their gear and immediately transferred to a secure subterranean counterintelligence facility beneath the capital. They sat in absolute silence, realizing their multi-million-dollar investment had vanished into the Sahelian air. But the true climax of the investigation was only beginning. In a nearby laboratory, elite digital forensic technicians began the meticulous process of bypassing the military-grade encryption on the 42 captured satellite communicators. As the first layers of defense collapsed on the digital screens, a series of hidden coordinate logs and deleted text pings emerged, pointing to an internal betrayal that cut directly into the heart of the nation's security apparatus. The flashing blue light of the mainframe computers in Ouagadougou cast long, distorted shadows against the concrete walls. Here, far from the physical grit of the border check, a different kind of resistance was being forged. The 42 captured satellite communicators sat arranged on diagnostic tables, their encrypted internal drives humming silently as local cyber analysts initiated a deep cryptographic bypass. Every single second was critical. In the realm of modern asymmetrical conflict, information is a weapon more lethal than any artillery shell, and the destiny of 22 million people depended entirely on what lay buried within the binary code of these foreign-built devices. Before we reveal the next chapter, which is perhaps the most powerful assertion of sovereignty you will ever hear, I want to pause and speak directly to you. If this channel has moved you, if these stories are touching something deep in your spirit, then consider becoming a member. Not for exclusive perks, but because supporting this channel is directly supporting narratives that mainstream media refuses to broadcast. Every membership is a vote for the mission of the Sahel Doctrine. Every member becomes a co-creator of the truth we are documenting. Join us and stand firmly with the principle that African wealth belongs entirely to Africa. As the final layers of foreign military-grade encryption collapsed under the relentless assault of the local technicians, the screens lit up with a terrifying clarity. This was not a passive network of low-level smugglers. It was an active breathing apparatus of espionage designed to orchestrate a devastating geopolitical shift. The digital forensic teams unearthed an absolute nightmare, a series of highly compartmentalized communication threads directly linking the foreign operatives to prominent figures deep inside the local civil service and fractured remnants of the old administrative regime. But it was the metadata that caused the air in the room to freeze. Tucked within an encrypted folder was a continuous stream of real-time GPS coordinates tracking the precise minute-by-minute movements of the young captain's personal security convoy over the preceding 48 hours. The betrayal was intimate. It was systematic. The wolf was not merely at the gate. It had been fed from within by individuals who were prepared to trade the collective destiny of their homeland for a fraction of that $12 million foreign bounty. The execution order for the Traore assassination plot was not a distant threat. It was a ticking clock scheduled to detonate within hours of the vehicle's interception. This was the terrifying reality of the Sahel proxy war brought to light. The old colonial structures had realized that direct military interventions were no longer tolerated by a politically conscious population. So they shifted their strategy to the shadows, using local proxies and digital tracking to decapitate the movement for true independence. The pressure on the young administration was immense, yet the response was instantaneous. Armed with the unencrypted names and coordinates of the internal conspirators, the security forces did not hesitate. They understood that a nation that pardons treason only invites its own destruction. The axis of power was about to pivot violently as the state prepared a sweeping counteroffensive to rip the subterranean network out by its roots. Yet as the digital analysts traced the ultimate origin of the satellite signals, the trail bypassed regional borders entirely, leading straight back to the capital cities of global superpowers. To truly understand the gravity of the Traore assassination plot, one must lift their gaze from the dusty checkpoints of Ouagadougou and examine the vast, high-stakes map of the Sahel proxy war. This was never an isolated incident of criminal smuggling. It was a calculated retaliatory strike against a historic tectonic shift. When Burkina Faso joined hands with Mali and Niger to forge the Alliance of Sahel States, they did not simply sign a mutual defense pact. They lit a magnificent torch of defiance that illuminated the entire continent. They began executing policies that the old guard considered unthinkable, auditing foreign-owned gold mines, tearing up lopsided colonial resource treaties, and politely but firmly ordering foreign military installations to vacate their sovereign soil. For the global economic empires, this was an unpardonable sin. Supremacy is an expensive habit for those who wish to buy your future, and when a collective of nations declares that their wealth belongs to the children of the Red Earth, the architects of exploitation do not simply pack their bags and vanish. They strike back from the shadows. They search for the weak links, the tired officials, and the open gates. They treat the African continent as a passive chessboard, utterly forgetting that the Sahel has transformed into a crucible where modern independence is forged through fire. Take a second right here to tell us where you are watching this broadcast from. Type the name of your city, your land, or the ancestral soil beneath your feet in the comments below. As you do know this, the Sahel Doctrine sends you not just profound gratitude, but a sincere blessing for strength in your hands, for unyielding pride in your heart, and for absolute light on the road ahead. The comments below are becoming a living map of global connection, proving that this message of dignity reaches far beyond artificial borders, uniting a diaspora that refuses to let African narratives be written by outsiders. Back within the borders of the nation, the discovery of the real-time convoy tracking data transformed the defensive border operation into an uncompromising nationwide sweep. Intelligence vectors moved like lightning across the capital city and deep into the rural provinces. This was the painful, sobering reality of the struggle for genuine autonomy. The true danger was not merely the foreign mercenary carrying the suitcase of wealth. It was the domestic facilitator willing to compromise the security of 22 million compatriots for a stack of foreign bills. Under the precise direction of the young captain, elite tactical units executed quiet, systematic detentions of high-ranking individuals embedded within the civil service and compromised factions of the old administrative regime. There was no theatrical propaganda, no needless cruelty, only the cold surgical removal of an invisible network of treason. A senior officer stood before national television to deliver a message that resonated through every home and village. This is not over. We will dismantle every single cell of this network, no matter how deep it is burrowed, and we will protect this awakening with our lives. Yet even as the domestic facilitators were being brought into custody, the financial intelligence teams achieved their most devastating cryptographic breakthrough. You do not simply withdraw $12 million in sequential crisp foreign currency notes without leaving a permanent digital footprint in the global financial system. The forensic ledger did not merely point to private offshore accounts. It traced back directly to state-backed entities across the ocean, completely pulling the mask off the global superpowers orchestrating the subversion. The government now holds a diplomatic nuclear option in its hands. Will they expose these international entities to the global stage, triggering an unprecedented diplomatic explosion? Or are the shadows about to twist the game once more? The global financial trail left no room for doubt. The cold ledger proved that the $12 million did not originate from mere underworld syndicates. It was wired through institutional channels designed to systematically dismantle a regional awakening. It is easy to look at this systemic manipulation with profound anger. It is natural to feel a deep, poignant regret that some native sons of the soil were willing to sell the collective future of their brothers and sisters for a stack of foreign currency. But anger and regret are not the final chapters of this story. They are merely the darkness that precedes a brilliant dawn. The ultimate realization of this failed operation is that a conscious population backed by a modern, dedicated intelligence network is no longer blind to the machinations of external forces. The old tactics of orchestrated destabilization are fracturing against an unyielding wall of collective dignity. The young captain sleeping on his basic military cot remains a living symbol of a continent that has decided to govern itself to protect its own gold and to determine its own geopolitical alignment, without seeking validation from distant capitals. What you have witnessed today is not a conclusion, but an opening. Africa's story of pride and absolute independence is still being written on the red earth, and each voice that joins this movement makes the chorus of freedom stronger. Before we step into the final horizon of this narrative, let us pause. If this message of unyielding dignity has moved your spirit, then subscribe to this channel, the Sahel Doctrine. We do not ask for numbers or digital metrics. We are building a sacred space where the voices of true sovereignty are honored and where the stories of African pride continue to be told with raw integrity. By subscribing, you are not merely supporting a channel, you are choosing to walk side by side with us into the next historic chapter of an unchained continent. Do not let this moment of awakening pass into silence. Subscribe now, stand tall, and be ready for the profound chapters that are already waiting to unfold. The dust on the highway outside Ouagadougou has settled, but the profound lessons of that fateful night continue to reverberate across the global stage. The failure of the Traore assassination plot serves as an undeniable warning to any external power that believes the spirit of a sovereign people can be purchased or broken. This was a direct, localized battle inside a much larger historical Sahel proxy war, a covert chess game where the old guard attempted to weaponize corruption, only to find their wealth confiscated and their secret operatives exposed to the blinding light of truth. The red earth of Burkina Faso remains sovereign. The unyielding vigilance of those ordinary border guards proved that the era of treating Africa as a passive playground for foreign interest is permanently over. As the domestic and international investigations deepen, the defeated Traore assassination plot stands not as a monument of fear, but as an eternal testament to an awakening continent. The sun is rising over the Sahel, catching the edges of the broken chains, and illuminating a future that will be written exclusively by African hands.